Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, I really appreciate your holding this hearing in review of country of origin meat labeling legislation. I just cannot overstate the importance of this issue to the American consumer, especially that demographic group of the woman age 18 to 44, who is a busy mom. We call her the soccer moms, but she's the woman that buys the most meat. And she's the person who is most concerned about this consumer right to know legislation, the ability to know what she really is putting in her family's stomach. I find it interesting, and I would like to ask unanimous consent to have my full testimony entered into the record, because I'm going to deviate just a little bit.
It will be placed in the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I find it so interesting that we label everything, including the cars that we buy, our TVs. We label toys. This is a very interesting little toy. It talks about, it labels that this little toy came from Malaysia. We're even concerned about what we give our dogs, and we should be. We love our pets, and so properly we've labeled all the dog bones where that material comes from. This dog bone happened to come from Argentina, and it is labeled as such. Now here we have a package of meat, Mr. Chairman, and it has everything but the Book of Genesis on the front of it. It actually gives the fat content, it gives the nutritional facts, it gives safe handling instructions, but oddly enough, our food is about the only thing that we don't label in terms of country of origin. And so Americans know for sure that American producers raise their food to the highest food safety and environmental standards of anyone in the entire world. And a recent Worldwide poll that was commissioned by the National Cattle Beef Association has seen that demographic group that I mentioned earlier move from a 78% strongly favors knowing the country of origin on their meat products to now 95%. So you see, Mr. Chairman, there's a growing awareness along with a growing concern for food safety and the consumer's right to know. Some have really tried to distort this picture by suggesting that we merely label muscle cuts with a foreign label. But this may be a subtle distinction to the casual political observer, but in practical terms, to the end-use consumer, we might as well enact no legislation at all. The consumer is demanding that all meat and meat products, including blended products such as hamburger, are labeled by its country of origin. Labeling only muscle cuts, I don't think will meet the goal of the consumer. So you see, Mr. Chairman, I have been pursuing country of origin labeling now for 3 years, and I know you have too. I've heard just about every excuse imaginable, whether it's the complexities of the labeling process or the cost of the consumer. I've heard them all. But it remains my position that American meat producers, whether cattle, pork, or lamb, produce the very best meat products in the world. Opponents to labeling originally estimated the cost at $60 million and then $100 million. And now they're coming in with a whopping $1 billion. But Mr. Chairman, that calibrates down, that $1 billion figure calibrates down to $4 per year per consumer. And $4 per year per consumer is less than what it would cost the average family to buy 2 Happy Meals at McDonald's. So today we already label just about everything we buy, like I mentioned earlier, but I think it's significant that Americans don't realize that every single month they consume 320 million pounds of foreign meat, and they don't understand it. So they believe that the USDA stamp of approval means that they're buying U.S. meat. And when the consumer finds that they're not buying U.S. meat, that sometimes up to 22% of the beef they're buying comes from foreign lands, and 40% of the lamb just recently in that swing is coming from foreign lands. It angers them. And so this is more than just food safety. This is more than environmental standards. This really is a consumer's right to know, Mr. Chairman, and I thank you so much for dealing with this issue.
Well, thank you for coming to the committee today with that testimony. Let me ask my colleagues if there are questions to these two congressional witnesses before we proceed to hear our secretary. We're honored to have the distinguished Democratic leader, Senator Dashwood, to lead off. We have questions.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I have no questions. I would thank both of our colleagues for their comments. I'm delighted to see the kind of bipartisan interest there is in this issue. And I'm very hopeful as a result of their leadership and involvement that we can move both of these bills along. I thank them for attending this hearing today.
Thank you, Senator Dawkins.
I thank you, Mr. Chairman, witnesses, and hopefully we're going to get this legislation passed.
Senator Kerry.
No questions.
Senator Johnson.
No questions, Mr. Chairman, but I thank the witnesses and thank you for their